This is Chapter 4, The Age of Absolute Power. Discussion number 1, the Spanish Hapsburgs. So, we're going to be talking about some of the major powers of Europe in this chapter during the early modern era. We're going to start in Habsburg, Spain. Now, while we know that Spain is going to kind of drop off the map as far as being a major European power, the name Habsburg is going to be very important up through World War I. So this family is going to be important. Now, the Habsburgs, Charles V, was Ferdinand and Isabella's grandson. And based on moms, dads, uncles, aunts, was when Charles V ascended to the throne, he inherited what we know as Spain, Portugal, Spanish colonies in America, and several different pieces of Central Europe. Now, having that amount of land and being spread all over the place made it one of those easy targets. A lot of people thought that they'd be able to get some land from this Habsburg Empire because it was so spread out. And so Charles V spent a lot of time defending his land against the Ottoman Turks coming out of the Balkan Peninsula. Of course, Charles V was also a die-hard Catholic, and so many times he decided that he was going to spread the Catholic faith by beating up on the Protestant princes and then establishing that territory to be for the Catholic religion. Now, Charles V retired to become a monk because he was so exhausted trying to run such a diverse kingdom all over the place. He split the empire between his brother, who he gave a lot of the Central Europe parts to be the Holy Roman Emperor, and that's where the Habsburg part's going to be very important. And then he gave parts of it to his son, Philip II. He gave Spain, what we now know as the Netherlands, and he also gave to Philip II southern Italy, which is that connection to the Pope, because Italy is where the Pope is. Now, Philip II was highly religious, and not only did he work to make sure he had absolute power over Spain with this authority given to him by God, because he accepted it by divine right. Because God had chosen him to be the leader of the country, everyone ought to obey everything that he says and does. And if you don't, then God's going to be displeased with you, and if God's displeased with you, then you know where you are going to go. He saw himself as the guardian of the Roman Catholic Church. In that way, he wanted to essentially not only make sure that no one decreased the size of the church, but he also would have been glad to help in its increase. He battled the Ottoman Turks, won the Battle of Lepanto, which was the last movement into Europe by the Ottoman Turks. After that, the Ottoman Turks, we only see them being pushed back over the next few centuries, until they are all the way pushed back into what we call Asia Minor, or the current day Turkey. Of course, that's not going to be completed until the end of World War I. He also battled against the Protestants in the Spanish Netherlands. The northern area was able to get its independence, and they became the Protestants that we now know as the Dutch Netherlands, Holland. Belgium was kept, and Belgium kept its Catholic identity. So Philip II, again, remember we said that he really would have loved to be a part of the Christianizing of the world, or actually we should say the Catholicizing of the world, and he realized that the Catholic faith had one very large problem as far as that prestige, and that was the fact that the Catholic Church was kicked out of Great Britain by Henry VIII. Remember we talked about that in Chapter 1. And while they had bounced back and forth, they had now gone toward more of a Protestant doctrine, and all that land was taken from the Catholic Church. And Philip II said, it ain't gonna be. So Philip II decided that he was going to assemble his entire navy. It was called the Spanish Armada. A nickname for it was the Invincible Armada, because it was believed that it would never be beaten. However, on the way from Spain, the Navy then sailed to Belgium, where it was supposed to pick up all of its troops, and then they were going to sail to England, land and conquer it in the name of Catholicism. However, poor planning and the fact that they had pretty bad weather pretty much blew the entire Navy with the troops out to the Atlantic Ocean, and they were not able to get back until most of the Navy was gone. Yes, the English fleet did come out and help finish it off, but they were put in such a bad spot, bad weather and bad timing, and the Invincible Armada was beaten. Spain never recovered. It was a tremendous amount of wealth and popularity that was based on a successful mission, and it didn't work. And so there were tremendous drains on the treasury, and then after Philip II, we had a lot of people that just didn't know how to really run a country. And so this is kind of where we really see Spain fall off the bottom. This concludes discussion number 1, the Spanish Hapsburgs, as part of Chapter 4, The Age of Absolute Power.